We're live. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 89 for Friday, 12th of January, 2024. We come to you again hoping that we can bring you something that is worthwhile of your time invested to listen to us, and hopefully we can provide some additional information that's going to help resolve or at least point out some of the issues that are causing problems to our country. At this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Wade if he will do the prayer for us. Um,
Thank,
wait. Yeah, Mr. Wade, would you do the prayer and the reading
thank you.
for us, sir?
Sure, I can. Yeah, thanks. Uh, Thank you, Leonard, and it's a pleasure to be in your company, you and Greg.
Yes, sir.
And like you say, I want me to proceed with the prayer, as we always does. Let's bow our heads. Lord God Almighty, we pray for your mercy to give us courage, strength,
Amen.
wisdom, understanding, and the will to speak truth to the nation and
Amen.
the love of people and the nation. We pray for closure for all those who await closure and for equal justice, for, for a godly nation, and for our leaders to turn from their wicked ways. We pray that our nation and people continue to be under your protection.
Amen.
We pray for healing for the sick, for those who are in need, for our elders, for the poor and less fortunate, and for our mothers and infants, and for all those who have been wrongfully accused. We pray for our loved ones who had left us. We pray for the killings to stop. We pray for the war to stop. We pray that the killing of innocent civilians, to stop. We pray for our elected leaders to stop lying to our people and nation and to
Amen.
educate them with truth, honesty, and compassion. In
Amen.
Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And I will do a reading from Timothy chapter 6, 1 to 10. Let all who are under the yoke of bondservant regard their own masters as worthy of all honor, so that the name of God and the teaching may not be revealed. Those who have believing masters must not be disrespectful on the grounds that they are brothers. Rather, they must serve all the better, since those who benefit by their good service are believers and beloved. Teach and urge these things. If anyone teach a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound words of our Lord Jesus Christ, and teach that and the teaching that accords with godliness. He is puffed up with conceit and understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy and for quarrels about words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicion, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and deprived in truth, imagines that godliness is a mean of gain, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, unto many senseless and harmful desires, and that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. It is, it is though this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many prongs. That's my reading from Timothy 1 to 10, chapter 6, 1 to 10. That's you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very much, sir. Greg, you want to identify yourself for us and play a music, please?
Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in to this tonight's edition of Belizean Affairs. Sitting with me virtually as my host is the chairman for the night, Mr. Leonard Brackett, followed by Mr. Roody. With that said, let's go to our first music.
Okay, gentlemen, you ready? One, two, three.
Uh, Thank you very much, Greg. Uh, Tonight, program will consist of uh, a number of different parts. We will deal with the issue of the Kian farmers' problems up north, and we'll also deal with the issues of the Maya and other Belizean land issues down south in PG. Uh, I want to deal with some of these matters from a constitutional perspective, as well as we'll deal with other subject matters as we go along throughout the program tonight. But I just pointed out those particular two special issues that we want to focus on. As regards to the cane farmers up north, I would like to do a citation here, reading from the Constitution of Belize. Let me see, section 10. I'll go back to section 10. Okay, I'm too far ahead. Okay. There we go. Section 10 of the Constitution reads as follows. Let me just make it comfortable for my visual. Okay, I'm ready to go. Section 10 of the Constitution of Belize, subsection 1 reads as follows. A person shall not be deprived of his freedom of movement. That is to say, the right to move freely throughout Belize. And there's no exception there that says, except for the Mayan area of occupancy. There's no exception there. It says the right to reside in any part of Belize, the right to enter Belize, the right to leave, and immunity from expulsion from Belize. The last program we had, there was a clipping played where uh, Miss Christina and some of the Maya Alliance people and one of the alcalde and a few other people were there having a meeting, and we had some other people that were not of the Mayan community who were attending that meeting, and there was some words exchanged and statements made that did not comport with the Constitution, which is why I decided on tonight's show, when we deal with constitutional legal matters and case laws and so on, to bring this to our attention once again and to read it precisely as is stipulated in the Constitution. Because the young man was all within his right, as I had said on that last show, to have pointed out to Miss Christina that what they were advocating was something comparable to a balkanization in Belize, when in fact we have one constitution, one law to which they subscribe, as they are saying, but that they are espousing as if under the alcalde rules, the alcalde has more powers or has the police powers, and therefore they don't need police officers to deal with anybody that commits a crime. If anybody commits a crime in any of those villages, it should not, according to our constitution, be the alcalde to arrest them or to prosecute them, or to that they have a system unto themselves that they will carry on justice within them. You know, they're under the same legal and judicial system as the rest of the country. So I'll read this part again. Belize Constitution, Part 1, Part 2, I'm sorry, Section 10 and Subsection 1. A person shall not be deprived of his freedom of movement, that is to say, the right to move freely throughout Belize, the right to reside in any part of Belize, the right to enter Belize, the right to leave Belize, and immunity from expulsion from any part of Belize. Any restrictions on a person's freedom of movement that is involved in his lawful detention shall not be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section. Nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section, to the extent that the law in question makes reasonable provisions for, and it goes on to have subsections A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then it also have another subsection number 4, which says, if any person whose freedom of movement has been restricted by virtue of such a provision as is referred to in subsection 3 above of this section, so request at any time during the period of that restriction, not earlier than 21 days after he or the other was made, or 3 months after he last made such a request, as the case may be, his case shall be reviewed by an independent and impartial tribunal, decided over by a person appointed by the Chief Justice from among persons who are legal practitioners. It never said anything about an alcalde being a legal practitioner, which is why I recall Mr. Wade in last the 88th section of our program question, where is their law school or where is their school that teaches them how to be a police or how to do police work? You recall making that statement, Mr. Wade?
I did made that
Uh,
statement. Yeah.
so here in the Constitution, it's pointing out exactly what you said and what that gentleman, what was the gentleman's name again uh,
Mr.
that was
Edward,
talking about Miss Christina?
Estefan.
Mr. Stefan, okay.
Mm.
So according to Christina, they subscribe as the Mayan community being part of Belize under the same constitution and jurisdiction of the central government, to which they alluded that they are, even though they are suing or they had sued the government to get money out of the government because the government dared to repair their roads and make it better. That being said, the fact remains that they can't have it both ways. They are either seeking balkanization of the country or they are willing to operate under the jurisdiction and the laws of the country. Unless they're hoping to one day maybe turn themselves over to Guatemala to be administered under Guatemalan rule, from which many of the present Mayans that are living up in the Toledo area, as they know, came from because of being slaughtered in the hundreds of thousands of people. Got refuge in our country. They are now Belizeans by birth, many of their children or descendants, and by that factor alone, they are entitled to exercise some or derive some benefits from the rest of the society and the rest of the country because they are members of the same community of the country. They are not just Mayan, they are Belizeans now. So it is incumbent on these people to play their cards correct and to not overreach and to not attempt to overplay their hands and try to muzzle the government because that is an intolerable attitude, action, or expectation. The government should not find itself in a situation where, by a decree to which they consented, by the way, they will be held over a barrel, and we, as the people who elect the government, by extension, would also be held over a barrel. And have one part of our community demand rights established for them that is not compatible with the rights established for all, to which the rest of the country has to abide by and do abide by and are governed by. It is unfair, unreasonable. And it was today that they had a meeting in PG town where some people were alleging that most of them did not want to have anything to do with the Mayan land rights the way it's been advocated because, as a matter of fact, they came to them with one promise, and as soon as they got on the way to get some muscle behind them, they start switching the game on them. And they're not in for that. So therefore, they want this matter to be looked at correctly and be dealt with correctly, and that they want representation in these negotiations where the government is having these discussions with some of the Mayan community. It's not all of the Mayan community that are in favor of the process that they were advocating. But it is the responsibility of the government in attempting to fulfill its obligation under the decree, the consent that they gave to the order of the court, to facilitate these people who are insisting in wanting to exercise certain type of rights, to exercise those rights within reasonableness. So just like how the government can give land grants to other Belizeans, and in some instances, foreign companies, just like how the government has the power to sell lands and give title absolute to people from whom they receive funds or money from. It is not too far-fetched to believe that the government can use those same powers to give anybody that they choose, even if it would have gone at their head, some extra lands, because that's the prerogative of governance and government. But that is not the same as to say that because a court um, had accepted a consent from the government to work and facilitate the Mayan community, it means that the Mayan community are then in a position to be able to dictate to the government and to pressure the government into doing anything that is unfair or unreasonable, such as trying to take away other people's private land in order to give it to the Mayan community. That's intolerable. If they want those lands, they will have to buy it themselves. Nothing wrong with that. Go and negotiate with the private people that own those lands, come up with an agreement, find the money. They can find money from abroad all the time, buy the lands, but they will not have our government or use our government to dispossess our people of their lands to give it to them under no circumstance, because that is intolerable and is unconstitutional. One other thing I want to point out here on that particular issue again, right? Um, under I did the freedom of movement. Let me see. Okay. There was a. Let me deal with the. No, I'll have to change up if I go there. So let me just defer from that and go and ask Mr. Wade to give us a comment on what I just presented. I don't want to change the subject before we.
Yes, like you rightfully says, Leonard, the chairman, that there's some of the villages that is totally not in favor of what's going on. They have their own ideology and their own way of looking at that Mayan land rights issue. I think what had happened there, that lady, Miss Christina Chuck, had created a lot of mischief in some of these villages. So we see it playing out right now that some of the villages are going public and stating the way they feel about the whole situation, right? And like he rightfully says, that the past and present government, if they want to settle this whole situation down south, they can.
Mm-hmm.
But what, in my view, what is really happening is that the UDP came and made promise to them, and they play hanky-panky with them, and they let the Mayans, the Mayan alliance and the Mayan leaders, dictated to them, this is what we need, and this is what we want the government to do, and this is the votes that you are going to get. And same as this present People's United Party, right? It's all about politics and villages popping up all over the south. And Greg put up a map of what the Mayans are claiming that is theirs, which blew my mind. So what happened to if the Garifuna want to claim? What happened if the East Indians want to claim? What happened if the Creole original people from down south want to claim?
We
These
have a
people
conflict.
have these people have legal claims. These people have legal evidence,
Mm-hmm.
which in my personal view, the Mayans have none. No legal claim, right? They cannot produce any papers, but the original people from down south, like for instance the East Indians, the Garifunas, and the Creole, they could present evidence as to how they are still there and as to how they are where they are because of their ancestors, not no Mayan ancestors. But anyway, like I say, if they want to settle this whole issue, they can. They're playing politics, and sadly, they're using the people, right? They're using the Mayans and the East Indians and the Garifunas to fight against each other, and they will come in the middle and take sides. That's what they do, and that's what they had done, and they continue to do it, which is a damn shame.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole phrase go there, and like you mentioned, my take on that, I advise my people, because I'm a son of the South, son of the South from that same area where that contention is at, that area. My navel string is there. So that's why I could voice and I could talk about it and I could say what I know, what I have witnessed. I don't know what Miss Dolores Balderramos or the PUP government or the UDP government had witnessed down there, but I could tell you what I have witnessed, right? And what I grew up in. I didn't grow up in Laguna being claimed by Mayans or the whole of the down south as they are claiming that Mayans has the right to, right? For me, like I say, if they want to settle this whole situation, they can, right? And I'm against all these villages popping up just to facilitate the political party, right? Just to facilitate a certain area representative or facilitate their political agenda and using the people to do it, which is so not right and so sad. We don't need to stop it. Give the people what is theirs. Render unto Caesar what is for Caesar, right? And
Amen.
that's what I got to say on that particular issue there. And I urge my people to continue to protest, continue to fight for their rights in whichever means suitable for them. And I'm, so sad that I'm not there right now to fight with them, but this is the contribution that I can give, right? Through
Uh,
this
th-
medium. So
th-
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back to you.
yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for your contribution, experience, timely uh, contextualizing of the facts. Because, like you said, you're a son of the South. You also have been there. You were born there, and your string is buried there, as a matter of fact.
Right there.
And more than anything else, you can testify to the fact that in certain areas, back when you was born and when you was growing up, there was no Mayan living there, farming there in those particular areas. But because they have this agenda now of land grab process, they're expanding as far and as fast as they can in order to claim as much as they can, regardless of what kind of impact it will have on the rest of the people, which is unfortunate and unfair, unreasonable, because that's not the way we have always been, and that's not the way we have coexisted before. Uh, I have before I go to Gregory. I guess Gregory might be posting or giving us a clip or something that he might want to speak on or address. In addition to what I've just read, I just want to read off the last part of this section of the Constitution in regards to the same Section 10. It's critical that we look at these things from the Constitution as well because, like I said, they were being referred to in that past discussion, but just referred to in passing. Nobody quoted it or nobody read it directly out of the Constitution as we are doing tonight. The government is supposed to be on an agenda to educate the people about the Constitution, and this is what they're supposed to be doing. But because they're not doing it, we are taking pleasure in being afforded the privilege to do so on behalf of our people and country, especially because of this critical issue going on among our countrymen.
Amen.
Section 10, subsection 5 reads as follows. It's a continuation of subsection 4. It says, on any review by a tribunal in pursuance of subsection 4 above, which I had just read, of this section of this of the case of any person whose freedom of movement has been restricted, the tribunal may make recommendations concerning the necessity or expediency of the continuation of that restriction in the to the authority by whom it was ordered, and unless it is otherwise provided by law, that authority shall be obliged to act in accordance with any such recommendation. So there we go. And when it speaks of a tribunal, as was previously stated in part of the in a part that I read before, it's not meaning an alcalde, it's not meaning a village councillor, it's not meaning a village chairman, it's not meaning a city mayor. Because no city mayor can try no case with no citizen. In Belize City, that does not happen. In Sand Creek, in PG, in Corozal Town, in Orange Walk Town, in Cayo, in Belmopan, no mayor of those big cities have the power or authority vested in them to try anybody's case. Those matters are dealt with by the judiciary section of our constitutional and our government. All of those things come under the jurisdiction of the judiciary, to which the police is the arresting agent on behalf of the country. Yes, in the Mayan alcalde system, the government has seen it fit to allow them to use some of their customary means and methods to manage their own population, but no Maya alcalde can arrest no other person that is outside of his jurisdiction, that is not a member of his community. They agree and accept that among themselves, but they have no such power as far as the Constitution is concerned, and the government has not delegated any such power to them for them to be able to arrest anybody else. So that young man, even though the young man was speaking in a lot of foul language and whatever else not, he was right within his right to advocate what he was advocating and state what he was saying without having to use the foul languages to get across the point that he was trying to get across. Because he was speaking directly from what the Constitution intimates. I go to my cousin, our next panelist, our panelist and engineer, Mr. Gregory Brackett. Would you have a comment, sir, or something that you'd like to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You refer to the Constitution, but let's not get carried away when we talk about the right to travel north, south, east, and west. We have to remember that there's such a thing as trespassing, where you can be told to leave, and then if you are not leave, you can be hauled. When we speak about having the right to arrest, you have to remember the laws of Belize, including the Constitution, give a citizen the right to do a citizen arrest. So we have to be careful how we speak about it. Now, you mentioned Section 10 of the Constitution, which I think you were referring to. Section 7 falls under when somebody is already being held in custody. So I don't know if you are referring to Mr. Estefan, who says he can go in the village until he.
Just a minute. before we go further, let's clarify the points that you brought up. The first one, as regards to Mr. Stefan, he was not arrested, but he was within his right to state what he stated. That is that there's no power vested in anybody to arrest him just for walking in their villages. Okay? First and foremost, he had committed no crime, is in the process of committing any crime, and is not a criminal per se. But what Mr. Chuck and the alcalde gentleman was intimating is that to them, their system allows them to, they agree among themselves in their community to have the alcalde act as an arbiter, not as a judge, jury, and executioner. Okay, it's a completely different issue because that is not afforded to anybody outside of our legal system to be able to do. But they among themselves agree to that and accept that, and they operate as such. But that does not extend to them the right or the privilege to contravene the highest law of the land, the Constitution of Belize. So when I referred to, or when I read that part from the Constitution that says, because they were telling the Mr. Stefan that they was going to arrest him if he come to the village without their permission or acquiescence. And I try to indicate there that as I read from the Constitution, anybody, not even the government, can't stop you from going any part of your country. That's a constitutional mandated, required policy of state, and that the government has no right to infringe on your desire or effort to transit one part of the country to another, or to leave the country or to come back into the country. So I dealt with all those things globally, within which that specific conversation was being had, and to make sure that anybody listening to the presentation would understand that even as far as what they were discussing, what the Constitution is saying, and what I mentioned or point out is even broader than that. So where do they come off having that idea that they should be discussing that kind of discussion with the gentleman and pretend to be intimidating the gentleman to tell him that they have powers of arrest? As you indicated just now, Greg, the powers of making a citizen arrest is when somebody have outrightly violated the Constitution. And in specifics, for example, to arrest a person that is in the process of committing a further crime, it's a process of deterrence, because the person doing the arrest, even with a police officer, no police officer, even with the power of arrest that he has, cannot just walk up to just any civilian that has not committed a crime, and just because maybe they have a personal beef with that person, use the power of their office as an officer of the law and tell a person they are under arrest and they're going to take them in and then make a false charge against them, which has happened over and over, but it's not legally tenable, is my point. So I don't know if that clarifies. Sorry for taking so long to try and get to that point of clarity, but what you was stipulated, no? And I hope you didn't launch your
I was expressing to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
While the Constitution and the law speak for itself, we have to look at private entities. And if Mr. is saying that the Maya village is a private entity and you step foot in there, they can ask you to leave, as he mentioned to Mr. Stefan. Then and only then, if he is told to leave and does not leave, or if he leaves and come back, they have what you call that authority to detain him.
That is what they're trying to achieve. That is what they're trying to achieve.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Because one, if I step foot on Mr. Wade's property and I'm trespassing, and he asked me to leave and I refuse, if he calls the police, then I can be arrested. Now, while stepping on that private property, he don't know if I'm there to kill him, his wife, or he don't know if I'm there to steal. So we have to look inside the context of what we are speaking about. No, I'm not saying that.
Mr. Brackett, I would like for us to leave that point that you established, because you have established it as a point. but it needs further clarity because it's a point that you're establishing in contradiction to another point that I had already established. So therefore, you can't have two same established points contradicting each other. Even though when people go to court, lawyers argue those same parameters, contradictory points from the same constitution, but we have to be clear and have to be specific. What the Mayans are attempting to do right now is to regularize the constitutional status of their land, and they're trying to classify it as under Mayan land tenure. It is different than the lands that the government award to people either as grants or as sold property with title absolute. Those are completely different parameters, and if you conflate or mix them up, we'll end up with exactly what we are doing here tonight. I establish or point out something, you establish and point out something, and then we try to make them seem as if they're contradicting each other. There is no such contradiction. Your point is established and well taken, but it needs clarity, is my point. And the way to clarify it is to let people understand that first and foremost, the Mayan have no right as of right now, which is what they're trying to, which is part of what they're seeking through the whole judiciary process to establish. As of right now, nobody in the Mayan community has any right to tell anybody that nobody else can come there or be around there, or because they do not have title absolute. The government has not completed its present exercise and has awarded them title absolute or some form of title to the land that they're seeking. That's a process that is ongoing right now. They're trying to get there. As of right now, that you and I are
Mr.
having this
Chairman,
conversation.
while,
Finish the point. Can I finish the point? Because I need to. For
go
clarity,
ahead, sir.
I'm sorry that I'm belaboring or taking so
Go
long.
ahead.
I'm sorry about that. What I'm trying to say is that they're trying to establish exactly what you point out. If they had a fenced property in their community that belongs to one of their people and somebody violated that fence and went in there, it's different. But they have an open community. And that open community, they're trying to put it under a situation where now anybody outside of the jurisdiction of those parameters that are established after this Mayan land right process is completed, the boundaries will be known, and then anybody that goes in there would be acting against private property interests or concern or rights. But they have not gotten there yet. So we cannot put the two things together and say it's one and the same. That's what I'm trying to clarify. I'm not just arguing for argumentary purposes. I'm trying to be technical and correct. But anyhow, I can't take up all the show. So please, sir, I yield back to you, Mr. Brackett, for further clarification of your point or extension or whatever is it that was
If,
advocating.
if I was given a chance to complete what I was saying,
Yes, sir.
when I referred to that, if the Mayan people were paying taxes, then yes, Mr. Stefan could be stopped from going into that village because then it becomes a private entity. But I was not given the chance. What I'm trying to say, in any village or town, you have what you call public access road, and anybody can travel north, south, east, or west via those public access roads. Even if it's a pathway that more than one people use, the villagers, it becomes public access pathway. So, with that said, Mr. Stefan would be within his right to say he can go in the village and they cannot stop him as long as he is traversing and what we call public access ways. But as I mentioned before, if it was private, when it becomes private entity, taxes are being paid to the government. So until that happens, then he is not forbidden from using the public access way.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Very clear. Thank you very much for your clarification. And a little further than that, because of the present status of the Mayan lands that they presently occupy, nobody knows who is not a part of the community where any Mayan family per se, house land or house lot boundary is, because it is not demarcated as such. They look at it all as a community property, and they have no boundaries or no fences established like you have in a normal, how should I say? Okay, most of the time when you get on a piece of land from the government, most people try to put up one fence, wood, cement, or whatever, or just some posts and some barbed wire. Or when they get big tracts of land, then run some barbed wire and just fence it in, like then they make cattle runs fencing or whatever, right? The bottom line is that in the Mayan community, if you walk right now in our Mayan community, most of the Mayan community right now that I'm aware of, that I've been around or been into, there's no fence. It's just open area. They among themselves know who live in what huts or what house. They know how much area they're using for maybe the extension to which each person is making use of whatever parcel of land, because they're not parceled out, is my point. And therefore, when you walk in a Mayan community, you do walk on other people's private land in order to get to other people's private land. All of them don't have streets or Picado Road or whatever. They walk through each other's property. You as an outsider would not be afforded or should not be afforded, according to their expectation, that privilege to walk into any, because, and the problem is they do not have it set up like we have in other communities where you have private land boundaries established. If you try and open somebody's fence, then gate and go in there, or jump over the fence and go in there, you violate people's private property. You don't have that same scenario in the Mayan community per se. I don't say all, because in some of them they're now into the modern era and they're well established and they have their, they're doing things differently, right? In fact, some of them today in the meeting that they had were advocating for doing things the way they want to do it, not the way they have been doing for a while now, where their alcalde or their community have jurisdiction or control over their land. They want their own private land like everybody else in the country, and they're entitled to that. These individuals now, what they're trying to do is a land grab and acquire power through controlling the resources. And not everybody is willing to go with that. And the problem is that they're not just doing that among themselves or within their existing community, they're trying to do it outside of those existing community and impacting the whole rest of the community. That has nothing to do with their situation and the fact that it's all lands, it's all property, it's all asset, and it all has value. Now, Julius, speaking as you said earlier, when they're paying taxes, they could just as well put up their fence if they want. The ones that want to do that, because they're living in the same community, some want to do it and some don't want. If they pay tax to the land, then they pay it under the alcalde, or under one community. Maybe they pay land taxes to the like what the government is trying to do right now, right? When the government say, yeah, give the village council them more powers so that they could collect taxes now. Remember that law that they just passed recently?
Yeah.
Basically, they're going to end up doing exactly what maybe the Mayans will have to do when this thing is resolved. That is that if the government not getting the land outright tax-free for maybe 1,000 years or whatever, like they do with them big corporation, then the government will have to be able to collect tax from there. And who you collect the tax from? The individual parcel owners. They don't have that. They collect from the alcalde, who is the head of the community or the little village. He will have to collect money from each and everybody in order for them to afford the taxes on all the lands that they try to hold on right now, because the government need to collect taxes on all the Kong lands and other lands that that are available. Even private land, the government they collect taxes from. That's how the government survive and subsist. So they give away the whole of Toledo and half of Sand Creek maybe. I'm just exaggerating, right? according to what they propose. And then the government now collect no taxes from none of them sources there. Mr. Wade?
That's that's you know that's a sticky situation. What these people are advocating for, um, the way I see it is that's why we having the different fractions within the Mayan community right now, because like you rightfully says, some of them want their own personal space, their four corners, their four pillows, and,
Mm-hmm.
and the papers for so they could take their papers to the bank and get a loan like everybody else.
That's what the
Right?
man said today. That's what the man said
Okay.
today.
So I don't know how stupid these leaders are being so stupid, because even the simple, like, or the common man, like how the chairman of the referendum committee says, Mr. Chanona, the simple man or the common man, right? Even the common man now wants his own space, his own four corners. So that's the problem that he's creating within that whole system there right now, right? A lot of them is not in line with Christina and her agenda she's shooting at, right? Because maybe they see problem down the road, right? So that's a whole, and like I said, this whole thing could be settled if the government want to settle it, right? Maybe I just want the way it look, they just want to continue kicking the ball down the road. Let these people fight against each other, right? Then they will know who is UDP and who is PUP. That's the whole thing. The whole thing is darn politics, right? It's a damn shame that the two-party system has this country the way it is, right? Especially we see it playing out down south, right? Now, right in front of our eyes, right? They created it. The government, the two-party system created that monster, right? But like I say, where are the area representatives? I said it before. Where are the politicians down there? Where is their stand? Are they stand with what the Mayans are doing because they know it's truth, or they stand against the people of Emery Grove? Do they stand with them because they know these people are fighting because they have proof and they are justifiable? You don't see them. You don't see them, right? They will come around, yes, to solicit their votes pretty soon, because there'll be an election pretty soon, right? So that's what I'm saying. I don't see why these people don't, this present PUP government don't settle this thing, man. If they could go to the House and pass these draconian laws, they have the super majority, right? Why don't they settle this whole matter? If they could march for Palestine, for Hamas, why can't they go and stand with the people in Emery Grove, or the people, or the Mayans? Why don't they do that? Right? So we don't know they're coming or going, but yeah, they want to be the negotiators, right? Miss Garcia, Dolores Ramos Garcia, that's your job. Settle this thing, right? You are the government. What are you afraid of? Afraid of to do the right thing. You shouldn't be afraid to do the right thing, Mr. PUP government, right? And the next government that will come in, right? You shouldn't be afraid to do the right thing, right? And stop turning people against each other, culture against culture. You enjoy seeing that? Well, like I say, these things are directly affecting these people, right? And you have the youths coming up, you have the children. This is what they're experiencing. Is this a good show of solidarity? Is this a good show of Belizeanship? Is this a good show? It's not. Because you think that the people from Emery Grove, the East Indians, and the kids coming up. You think that they are happy with that? Or you think that the Mayan kids seeing this, they are happy with that? Come on. This thing could be settled, right? And you don't need no judge or jury to do it. It's right in front of your eyes. Do the right thing, right? So we are only. I personally, we are on this through this medium only advocating for them to do the right thing and settle this matter, right? And stop having my people fighting against each other, right? Should never happen. Should never have even started. From it started, they should have went there and settled this matter. We see it how it's playing out. I don't know how people do not pick up arms and I'm just saying that the way they were behaving, and we see it on the airwaves and we see it on social media how they were interacting. The lady, Miss Christina Chuck, you see her attitude, right? And you see the attitude of the people at Emery Grove, right? But anyway, this thing needs to settle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
And back to you, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. I have another little part here that I'd like to read. Constitution of Belize, Section 17, subsection 1. And it says, no property of any description shall be compulsory taken possession of, and no interest in or right over property of any description shall be compulsorily acquired except by or under a law. A law that, for example, in subsection A says, prescribe the principles on which and the manner in which reasonable compensation therefore is to be determined and given within a reasonable time. And it goes on to speak about B, subsection to B, 1 and 2, and 3 and 4, and then quite a few other subsections. We don't need to get into all of it, but because the essence of all of what those readings are about is about procedural issues as to how to go about doing what we first described in the part that I read above, okay? And since we are not dealing with any of those particulars in terms of physically resolving and or need to speak to them because they have to go through a process in order to get to that point, I'll just reread that section 17, subsection 1 for emphasis. And it says again, no property of any description shall be compulsory taken possession of, and no interest in or right over property of any description shall be compulsory acquired except or under a law, specifically spelling out and stating what the purpose of that acquisition is for, how much is going to be paid, and whether or not that payment is going to be made in a timely basis. Those are the requirements for the Constitution. We have had many cases being dealt with and ruled, and even some parts of the bogus effort of the government trying to create other law, as the Constitution described them to be, in terms of some exercise that ministers try to push forward, that have been ruled as null and void. So I read this party, and I brought this point forward because there's this stipulation where Ms. Christina had made a statement that the government can go ahead and acquire the lands from the private people if her group decides that those land that those people have should be part of their claim or their customary land usage. I don't know how the hell that will ever work because, for example, the ruling where they went and sued the government the other day and got $6 point something million out of the government because the government repaired the road going to Halakte when in fact that road was there for decades, many multiples of decades. All the government did was resurface the road, provide some guardrails to make people not run off of the road, and whatever else not needed to be done to facilitate. Remember that word? You'll hear me use it over and over, and I will be emphasizing it over and over, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. One single word: facilitate. Everything else that we are talking about tonight and has been spoken about before in the courts and out of the courts, and will be spoken about during the rest of this program and on other programs, and will be spoken about for however long it's going to take before this matter gets resolved. And I believe that even when they get to a point when they think it's resolved, they will still have latent problems to deal with that will continue for many years to come. I can say that today as we're sitting here having this discussion. But the bottom line is, if they were genuine in their concern about wanting to have the Toledo district developed, because it has always been classified as the forgotten district, and no lot of infrastructure was put in there, and this present government is trying to put in whatever infrastructure for whatever reason, because I know that there are other ulterior motives why that Halakta road was upgraded. Okay, that's part of an agreement that this or Belize government have had with the Guatemalan. Okay, but anyhow, let me not, I don't want to get distracted. Let me leave that alone. The bottom line is, the Mayan people should not have gone to court and tried to sue the government, and the judge that ruled on that case, Judge Arana, should not have allowed that case to be won by the Mayans, because either she was not given correct information, or she just didn't know herself, despite not having been given the information, because she could have acquired that information to find out and know that that road was already there for decades and decades and decades in the past. No Maya was planting no corn or no other customary land use by them was being done on that particular piece of road. Nobody was driving a tractor or no cars or no vehicle, or the government never destroyed no crop or no area that they had crops on in order to resurface that road. And had the judge been aware of that as a fact, had someone brought it to their attention, which is why I said that case was dealt with and ruled on the basis of malpractice.
You're so right on that, Leonard. I
Because
patrol
any
that
legal
road
person
on
or
foot.
anybody who would have
From in the
represented the
70s, I
government,
walked that road. That
yes, sir.
trail, that Picard, that was a Picard road, the 70s, patrolling the borders.
You're correct, sir. Because anybody who had known of the existence of that road and had brought that to the attention of the judge, that judge would have been in a position to realize that there was no such thing as a Mayan land rights as regards to the piece of land that road was running on, that had been there for so many decades and decades in the past. Nobody had been planting nothing there. So they have no customary land use of that area for decades.
Right,
but yet we have a bastardized ruling by our very Supreme Court at that. And one of our learned and most experienced Supreme Court judge at this current time, when that ruling was made. Because that Supreme Court judge, Judge Arana, by all measure, was competent and capable of being able to be awarded that right to continue, not only as a temporary Supreme Court judge or a replacement temporarily, but that she should have been able to inherit that job in her own rights because of her knowledge, experience, and just the morals of the issue. But the fact that she made such a dastardly ruling is not to her deficiency. It was because she had to rule on what is in front of her, like all judges has to do. They make a ruling based on the evidence that is presented to them by the defendant, as well as the people who are prosecuting. No judge can out of them back pocket decide, okay, well, despite what I have in front of them, they want to rule some other way, unless they go into the laws deeper and do their own research and come up with what you call stare decisis or settled law And then they can rule on that, because then they have the authority of the history of the court behind them when they do that. But if the government not present the facts or the evidence, you, Mr. Wade, you, Gregory, myself, had any of us known that that road was there, and that's the road that these people then try to claim as customary land use, and therefore claim that the government damaged their customary land use, and therefore the government need to pay them. Who is the government? We, the people of Belize. So then the shaft going and coming. Then they lay claim to the land where they never had, or where they never had no control over, where they never had no, they weren't planting or using. And then they complain that the government, like Ms. Christina said in the last clip that they had with her, the government have to continue doing its job. And when she was talking about the Sokot tree that they cut down, she was saying that, well, maybe the engineers, they weren't consulting with the people then, and maybe they're supposed to consult with the people then, and maybe they're trying to superimpose their concept of governance on the central government. I don't understand. Well, I do. I shouldn't even say that. I do understand, because I know enough to be able to say that, to say and to describe what is it that they're doing. They are basically power playing, overreaching, and land grabbing. And they want the central government to pay them for whatever they consider to be a taking of their rights from them. When in fact they never had the rights, then just to negotiate to try to get the rights. They will only get those rights after when this thing is concluded. Then the government will give them an authorization to say, well, these are your boundaries. This is the delimitation of your boundaries. And within that, then they will be able to make the claims in the future that they're now currently trying to make before they get ownership of the land. I mean, it's preposterous, just the concept alone. But there's a bigger agenda. I yield to you, Mr. Brackett, for your input, sir. Greg, would you happen to have any of those clippings available from any of the meetings that were being had?
Yes, I will.
You want to play any of those? In addition to your...
Perhaps if I could give my perspective on the...
Before I play that, sir, let me play this.
Belize, Mr. Cook. Good morning, my Belizean people. Good morning, my people from Toledo, from near and far. Today I make a stand against balkanization. The division of our people is here. But I will not allow that to prevail. I stand here today not to fight for me. This is not about politics. This is not about race. This is not about color. This is about our Belizean people, the one who pays our tax, the one who vote for governments to serve us and not emulate. The past commissioner for the Indigenous Peoples Affairs in the year 2021, when he first took up office in 2021, he made mention that the Constitution is the supreme law of Belize. So then, when we had the small incident in Columbia Village then, why is it that we must seek consultation with MLA before fixing the bridge? Who are they? I know the Honorable Valderramos, in her last interview in regards to the denouncing of the Maya land policy, the customary Maya land policy, she made two important things. The first one, she said, although they have the right to a consultation, one thing we want to get across to our people is that we cannot give Toledo, the entire Toledo, to this association. Very important. We cannot give the entire Toledo. So therefore, our land is at risk. But the second thing she also mentioned is the government have a right to protect those who have private properties. Now, in our community, who have title for their land? That's the question, my fellow Belizeans. I want to leave with you with one question. Do we want the government of Belize to continue to govern and look after our affairs, or do we have Emily look after our affairs? Thank you.
Very well said. Back to you, Greg.
That was one of the clips. And now let me play this piece here just to...
The one with Christina? You want to play the one with Christina now? Or not
right.
yet?
Perhaps if I could give my perspective on the recent flurry of opposition. I want to put it that way because we have seen this happen time and time again, each and every time that there is a visit and a delegation of ministers to the Toledo district, which fortunately I was able to witness myself. I wanna give our perspective. The Maya villages have lands that are protected by the law. The Constitution itself protects their rights to their lands. And the recent Caribbean Court of Justice basically affirms this right and says that this right is equal in protection to any other forms of property rights here in Belize. So the village itself, and when I say the village, I'm talking about all 41 Maya villages, including Big Falls and San Marcos. The village itself will have to make decision on what it wants to do with its land. All right, the right of the village cannot be ignored as we speak. If a community decides that, listen, while the court has told me that I own this land, while the court has said that I have a right to this land, I will choose not to accept my inheritance, basically. I will choose to accept that the government is the one that controls and administrates, and that the government is the one that issues individual private properties on my lands. That is their right. However, that decision cannot be made by a single individual in that community. And it cannot be made by a minority of individuals in that community.
My goodness.
Conflation.
The Constitution gives them the right to their land, but the Constitution does not give the Mayan people who want the government to survey and let them get them title. They cannot make that decision.
Mr. Brackett?
Imagine.
Mr. Brackett, can I step on your toe, sir?
Yes.
Miss Christina,
Go ahead, sir.
Miss Christina is conflating, but she's acting. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I need to get the point across. She's acting with a character. Let me say it like that, just to be nice. She's acting with a character because in one sentence, she wants us to believe that the Mayan people believe that they're under the jurisdiction of the central government, and that the CCJ recognizes that as well, and has said to the government that you have to vindicate and validate the right of the Mayan. Nobody is disputing that. That's what the government acceded to and agreed to in its what you call consent decree. So she's conflating and trying to bamboozle people when she says that, knowing that that is the fact, and then turn around and say, oh well, but the Mayan people, it's not the alcalde and the people then that took out the suit and went to the court and won the case that are in charge or have the powers. It is the people, and those people can't make that decision because she, as one of the people among the people, and some of the other leaders have already made that decision for their community. So they're going to force everybody to accept what their leadership is saying should happen. And she's saying that the minority cannot have no way or say or rights. The rights of the majority is subjugated to the rights and the powers of the majority. That's not what our constitution says. That's not what the court ordered the government to do. The court never ordered the government to give the Mayans them a balkanized status in our country where some people in the Mayan community are going to have more powers in the Mayan community than the government itself. And that authority is going to be exercised on behalf of everybody in the community, despite the interest of some that has no concern or want to participate in that process. The rights of those minorities have to be respected too. That's what a constitution does for a country. It does not allow no majority to foster rights or powers on the minority. It protects the rights of the majority and the minority. That's why we have
Mr.
one constitution.
Chairman, if I may, let's
Yes, sir.
see if this is the right here to hear that for yourself.
They're a little ahead of themselves because every single iteration or every single version of the Maya customary land tenure policy has been consulted, and we continue the consultations. But it is for the government of Belize to make proposals on which we will consult. I am saying to the Maya leaders, I am saying to the association, I'm saying to the Julian Cho Society and all interested parties, whether Maya or non-Maya, we will consult. And that's the situation. However, there is an ongoing dynamic of a sort of a to and fro, in which we believe as government that sometimes the MLA grouping, as we have come to call them, I believe that sometimes they get a little ahead of themselves, but it is for government, as I have said from the very inception of this portfolio, which is now 3 years old. From the inception of this portfolio, I made it very clear that it is for government to try to balance competing interests. Now, when we do decide on the extent of the boundaries of a village, which we will, again will consult on it, when we do decide on it after consultation, we are required to consult, but we are not required to give everybody everything that they may wish.
That's it.
That's it.
But they don't understand that,
Well said.
my dear cousin. Or I should say, not that they don't understand it, they don't want to accept that as the reality. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't meet their expectation for maximizing their power acquisition and the exercise of power on behalf of people who don't want to exercise powers on their behalf. That part of the story they don't want to hear about. They just want to go ahead, get as much of the territory from the government under their misguided presumptions, and then turn around and deprive the minority in their community of having any way. Because the big wigs will sit on the rights and the powers to determine who gets what and uses what, and they will run the thing like a little small kingdom of their own. In other words, as a matter of fact, that is why some of the people are rebelling right now that went to the meeting today. The same meeting that you just played earlier, the clip before this one, Greg, when the people were at the meeting. I would wish that we could listen to a little bit of that,
Right.
because make them people speak for
But
themselves. Greg, could you just continue a little
Mr.
bit of that?
Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
there is an issue down south.
Quickly, we are
There
going
was
to
an
be running out of
issue.
time. We are going to be running out of time, but this issue is
Right.
of such critical importance that I think we need to put only extra 10 minutes of
Because,
time to make we continue the
you
discussion
know,
properly.
right. The problem I have when it comes to the government dealing with the Mayas is the same issues with the government dealing with ASRBSI. It's the same thing. No change, Every 2 years, you go back and you try to fix the unfixable. It's the same language we are speaking because, like the Mayas, listen to this from the Prime Minister, sir.
That's a
Wait.
long-standing problem, issue and challenge that where the BSFA has been refusing to sign a new contract. I think what's important to point out that this is a private transaction, and as much as the government will want to wear the BSFA or anybody, we cannot get involved. It is a private transaction. We are doing everything to support the industry. We are setting up a commission of inquiry to see where we can improve our productivity, what are the steps that we need to take to increase profitability in the industry. But a commission of inquiry only makes recommendations. And so, I mean, it's important for all parties to understand, for the key informants to understand.
Greg,
You see what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman?
just a minute, sir. Just a minute. You might need to replay that same clip again for us, because we were about to transition, but there are parts of the reason why I was saying earlier we need to add some extra minutes, because I realized that we need some points on the Mayan issue that we hadn't completed on, and I knew we were needing to transition, but we can't transition yet. Okay, so I'll have to beg your indulgence for us to not jump from over there right now, but deal with that and then have to come back and try, with it, like whipsaw the public, or we need to stay focused on that
Right.
one point. Let's
I
close it out.
quite,
Let's close it
I
out.
quite agree
Don't
with
mind.
what you were saying.
And that's why I asked for
But
the extra
my
10 minutes,
thing-
so we can deal with it.
Right. The thing in playing that clip just now
It's very
was to
important.
prove to the people that the government cannot deal with the problem themselves, as they cannot deal
There's no
with
problem.
ASI, ESR,
Your point
BSI.
is well taken, sir, and it's valid. And I think that is the transition piece that we
You
need to play.
want me to
But we are
replay the
preempting it.
clip?
Huh? No, not yet. Not play it yet. We need to close out what I was about to try and say earlier as regards to the Mayan land rights issue. Because we were talking about Christina and how her committee and the Alcalde Association and others, we were talking about the very people in that they're saying that they represent are advocating contrary to what they were saying that they were trying to do. And we needed was to let the public hear a little bit more of that previous clip that you had with the PG meeting today, for people to get a sense from those people's words and mouth rather than from ours. We know what we are talking about, we know what we're trying to advocate, but we are not on the ground, and therefore it's very essential that
Let me play
we
it
close
once
it out.
more.
Yeah, just close it out. Close out that chapter.
And Belize, Mr. Cook. Good morning, my Belizean people. Good morning, my people from Toledo, from near and far. Today I make a stand against balkanization. The division of our people is here. But I will not allow that to prevail. I stand here today not to fight for me. This is not about politics. This is not about race. This is not about color. This is about our Belizean people, the one who pays our tax, the one who vote for governments to serve us and not emulate. The past commissioner for the Indigenous Peoples Affairs in the year 2021, when he first took up office in 2021, he made mention that the Constitution is the supreme law of Belize. So then, when we had the small incident in Columbia Village then, why is it that we must seek consultation with MLA before fixing the bridge? Who are they? I know the Honorable Valderramos, in her last interview in regards to the denouncing of the Maya land policy, customary Mayalan policy. She made two important things. The first one, she said, although they have the right to a consultation, one thing we want to get across to our people is that we cannot give Toledo, the entire Toledo, to this association. Very important, we cannot give the entire Toledo. So therefore, our land is at risk. But the second thing she also mentioned is the government have a right to protect those who have private properties. Now, in our community, who have title for their land? That's the question, my fellow Belizeans. I want to leave with you with one question. Do we want the government of Belize to continue to govern and look after our affairs? Or do we have Emily look after our affairs? Thank you.
Play, Greg, play some more. You had already played that. I was trying to get the rest, some more of that same thing, because it has like 38 minutes. I was just trying to get some more of it.
Oh, it was too long. You have to clip it. You can only get the pieces.
Shucks.
It's too long.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's it then. So let's transition as I was about to do then initially, right? Before we play the clip, let's contextualize it. Which is 17 protection of program. Okay. Give me a second here. Let me. I'm just go to this section here. 17. Okay, I was there already. 2, 1. Okay, there you go. So, section 17 of the Belize Constitution reads as follows. 17, subsection 1. No property of any description shall be compulsorily taken possession of, and no interest in or right over property of any description shall be compulsorily acquired, except or under a law for the purpose. Then you also have under section 8, quickly. I just want to read a part of section 8. Oops. Oh man, I'm enlarged it too much. Section 8, 11. Just a second. Section 8. I'm reading a short part of it. Section 8, subsection 1 says, no person shall be held in slavery or servitude. The term servitude meaning there to render their service without due compensation and or without getting their just rewards. Okay? So when we have our government entering into agreement on the with a foreign company to come and acquire the interest of the millers, the mill the cane farmers cane, and for the millers to take the money and share it with the cane farmers. When the millers is deciding to take more than what is due to them, so that they can give it to their financiers abroad, they take compensation for their employees, they take compensation for their milling, they take compensation for every and all kind of expenses, overhead expenses, as well as their profit to give to their profit to their investors, and then take the little crumbs and throw it at the farmers then for the farmers to share among themselves. The amount of people in the farming, it's a much bigger group of people than the people who own and control the mills and who have put money forward to finance for $100+ million to acquire that equipment when BSI couldn't control it. So the bottom line is that the people in the cane farming industry are not complaining about having to have an agreement. They want an agreement, but they want a better agreement. They don't want an agreement whereby the government is facilitating, remember that word again, facilitating the millers and the people who own the mill. They take advantage of the cane farmers there who produce the crop, who has to go and acquire the land, clean the land, plant the land, fertilize the land, take care of the land until it grow, clean it, cut it, send it back to the mill. All those things at their own expense. Some of them have loan from banks and from credit unions. And then the millers, they will turn around and they will mill the cane, send it abroad, get the money, and do what they want with it. And the cane farmers supposed to just sit down and suck their finger. And if they don't do that, then the government could send in the security forces then to go beat them down if they dare try to demonstrate. Then the government can turn around, and in the case of the Prime Minister, he will make agreement with them people, take off and going abroad, left the agreement incomplete for somebody else to complete. And then the lawyers, and I could call him, Mr. Godfrey, he will turn around and change the legal terms that the people had agreed to and that the Prime Minister had agreed to, and turn around and want the people to sign it. And because the people, the lawyer, Ms. Marine, found out what was happening and advised her clients that there were some changes there before they signed and be aware of it, and they decided not to sign because they were being taken advantage of. They were being put in a situation where they would have gone ahead and signed that document blindly, not knowing that the conditions would change. But because they had good lawyer on the part of Ms. Marine, they were able to stop themselves from committing an act that they may get binded with, and then the company may be able to use over their head. Then the Prime Minister, he won't complain that, well, he was disturbed for having to return from a trip and that everything was already set in place and it should have been done. How the hell he won't let it to be done and then have the people then being taken advantage of? And he won't, that won't sit all right with him. He won't get vexed with the one Norteño cane farmers colleagues them for not being able to bamboozle the people into accepting a deal that was changed in the middle of the stream. The man is not incompetent. He's just chancy, like I said. Mr. Wait. I'm sorry. Greg, play the man thing as I was asking earlier. I'm making you replay it again, please.
That's a long-standing problem, issue and challenge that where the BSFA has been refusing to sign a new contract. I think what's important to point out that this is a private transaction, and as much as the government will want to have the BSFA or anybody, we cannot get involved. It is a private transaction. We are doing everything to support the industry. We are setting up a commission of inquiry to see where we can improve our productivity, what are the steps that we need to take to increase profitability in the industry. But a commission of inquiry only makes recommendations. And so, I mean, it's important for all parties to understand, for the cane farmers to understand, and for BSI, that the commission of inquiry will only give recommendations. I am urging the BSFA to sign a 3-year contract so that they could have some sort of sense of stability for the next 3 years. And then that will give you a time to be able to, for the Commission of Inquiry to go through its process, to come up with some recommendations, and then to see what can be implemented and what cannot be implemented. Again, the government is prepared to support the farmers as much as they possibly can, just like we're prepared to support the factory. Because at the end of the day, if the sugar industry, if we fail in this industry, it affects everyone. If we succeed, all of us benefit from these efforts. I want to put on record, and I want to assure the cane farmers that it is not the government that's holding this back. And so we've been prepared to do this a long time ago. But some associations, and I don't want to mention which one in particular, continue to be changing the rules or continue to be changing their ask. And that is why we have been holding back. But the important point to make is that the government is committed to setting up the Commission of Inquiry for us to be able to take a holistic look of the industry, how we can modernize it, how we can improve yields, how we can improve the production of sugar from cane, and what other possible byproducts can be produced to be able to make the industry a more profitable one for everyone.
We're losing time. I was supposed to go to Mr. Wade. I just want to make a quick comment before I do that. All of what we heard the Prime Minister say just now was being very disingenuous, okay? Because he knows well that, yes, it's a private industry with millers and cane farmers in a private effort, but being facilitated by the government. It is the government of Belize that facilitated the millers to take possession of that mill. It is the people in the Canero place that put up 7 area representatives to help them represent their interests. And when the Prime Minister wants to say it's a private thing, isn't it a private thing with Portico as well? How the hell does government get involved in that and subordinate for we treasury to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to pay off Mr. Ashcroft in a private transaction or private issues? Is he not talking out of both his mouth and his butt, thinking that all of we out here are a bunch of idiots? When it's convenient for him to mess around with we treasury and dispossess we of money that we need to take care of the governance business and with people, you don't have no problem getting into private business and private people's business. Does he? No. But he gonna try play the fool and bamboozle the people them. And if them people really start to riot or shut down the whole damn thing or decide not to go give no cane, he gonna put pressure upon the people and bring out the police force and the military and everybody else on behalf of the millers. That's how these people roll. That's how these government officials roll. They're always willing to suborn the powers of governance on behalf of the elite people in the society. They never give their own people a break. The very people that elect them into office to look after the interests of the country. No, that interest is suborned to his interest and the interest of his people that he thinks that he can go and rub shoulder and drink cocktail with. That's why he's having problems with the one people, the one members of his cabinet that are from up north. Some of them same 7 members from up north are against him in cabinet. And I wish that they hold up against him in cabinet to stop him from push through that political deal as well. Because all he's going to do is cost our country some few $100 more million in the world. And they're all seeing through what is going on with, because he lied to them and suborned them when he went with the political agreement to them without telling them that he had already gotten the legal opinion that was contrary to what he was trying to push. So the man is a scoundrel and a hyena and a jackal. And he's helping other people to suck the blood out of the native people name. And he treat them like slaves, which is why I read that part of the Constitution that says that nobody should be treated like a slave and nobody should be dispossessed of their material values. The cane where the cane farmers then produce after going through all them processes is their wealth. It's their asset. It's their means of survival. Why should somebody take first dip and take the most of it and then get in the crumbs to spread among themselves? So many of them, and then they also have their family. Just because this one company could shut down the industry. They don't give a hoot. They could shut down the industry and keep it closed down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years if they want. But if they dare to do that, the government should have the fortitude enough to be able to not provide for them any lands so that they could go ahead and create no cane field to produce the cane with the cane farmers and don't have enough in the cane field and undercut the cane farmers them. And I know Mr. Briceño is that type of person. He would do that. Go ahead, Mr. Wade. It just makes
That's
me mad,
was
man.
thank you.
Just
That was
drive
my
me
train of
crazy.
thought. That was my train of thought there, Mr. Chairman. Right? Listening to that guy, right? Um,
Sick.
who believes that guy, right? Only his fanatics or people close to him, right? They are the only people that believes that guy at this 2024 time right now we are living in, based on all the lies he have told and all the foul that comes out of his mouth. Well, listen, talk about private. I'll add one more. Isn't Brad's a private entity,
Hello?
right?
Hello?
So who is this guy, man? Anyway,
He's a jackal. That's who he is.
listen.
Mr. Wade, let me help you with
Chauncey.
one.
Go ahead.
A private entity. Didn't the government take them to court and lost?
Okay.
They took
Exactly.
this same private entity to court and lost
Okay. So
for the
well,
money
that's
they
my
wanted. For the money they wanted, the sugar factory to give.
Because they want to operate as a bunch of gangsters instead of a bunch of legitimate governance operators. They could have moved in that case if they had done the right thing. But they want to bullywag the process. They're a bunch of gangsters. Sorry, Mr. Wheeler. This guy just drive me crazy, man.
anyway. It's good that you play these things here, guys. That does anybody with sane mind, with a thinking mind, anybody who see through these guys, right, would appreciate right what we do and appreciate we show and tell. Because we know they talk behind this man back, out of his back pocket. Talk from the foul that comes out of his mouth. People are tired of that, right? Talk about he cannot negotiate and he cannot do nothing in good faith, right? For the poor cane farmers. That's what he's trying to say. He not got the power to negotiate in good faith for his people and for our. And then not to mention, the other my guy, the Minister of Agriculture, where is he? He is the man who we are talking about food security, right? Man, come on, right? But you listen to the things that comes out of these guys' mouth, and when it's time to act, and when it's time to do right by the people, right? Where are they? Right? Where are they? Right? And then they will come and they say that they not got the powers. Got the powers to do other things, right? So in my view, I'll say that, this,
Rascal.
right, that the prime minister, Mr. I'm not gonna call him honorable, but the prime minister, Mr. Johnny Briceño, the People's United Party leader, right, have no kind of good intention in this deal, right? He will play this out, right, and hopefully next whoever comes and take over will do the same thing too, because none of them have the balls, right, to stand up for the people and do right for the people. All of them is in that hustling. If then what is it there for me? All of them want what is it there when is there is nothing there for them? They back off, right? And they make blame, right? But if they want to fix, I think it's so easy, if this People's United Party and past government wanted to fix this sugarcane crisis that we have every 2 years, every year we have this problem, and not to mention the lead negotiator, that the only man they could have found in this country, Mr. Briceño. I mean, Mr. What? Lencho Marin,
Marin.
right? Right? The retired politician was just right on retirement on the taxpayers' back. They brought him back because he's the only man in this country that could work between BSI and the cane farmers to bring a good solution. Where is he? Right? But anyway, that's to show you the level of
Hypocrisy.
stupidity and hypocrisy and Like you always say, like kind of a bunch of hyenas, right? That have no good intention for the poor cane farmers and the poor people of this country and the hard-working people of this country. They always use them as guinea pig. The only time they want them is when it's time to vote, right? Lingering in all that crap that comes out of this guy mouth, right? Because at this point, I think only like 3% of Belizean right now believe that guy, and that is his close minions believe him, right? Those close cronies believe him, right? The other 97% of this country, now you played out, Mr. Man, the stuff that comes out of your mouth, right? People don't believe you no more, right? You can't look people in the face no more, right? But anyway, I just hope and pray that, at the end result, that the cane farmers, get their just dues, right? And at the end of the day, I just hope and pray that the people down south who deserve, get what they deserve, right? And that's our, you know, issue tonight. That is our
Mr.
program tonight. And
Mr. Gregory, Mr. Gregory Brackett,
back to you, Mr. Chairman.
any additional comments, sir?
Well, based on what happened in the cane industry, I would only like to say that we are working with a government who wants to get rid of price gouging and is encouraging price gouging. Because now you see the imported sugar, which will sell for a certain price, and according to the guy from the middle, you will pay the price per pound depending from how far the store is from the factory. And that is posted on their flyer. But in this whole sugar deal, regardless of what the government tries to say, they did not find a solution. Mediator and all, because the CEO said it best when he personally said this.
There's a long road ahead. I think we still have ways to go in terms of reaching the stability and the certainty that we need in the industry. But this is a first start, and we hope to make progress from this.
Thank you very much, sir. We're far beyond our time tonight, but I think we'll still have to add another 5 minutes so we can give both of you a couple minutes for close out.
My power pack is going.
Yes, sir. Take a couple minutes quickly and then do your first close out. Then, so in case of stuff die out, at least you have done your part. Thank you very much for the participation so far. Please do your closing, Mr. Brackett. Greg?
Well, I would like to say that I hope the Belizean people at home and abroad is looking and watching what is happening in the country. We have municipal election coming, and I hope they put their vote where it will most count. And please don't forget new aspiring and upcoming candidates and new third parties. Give
Thank you very
these
much,
people a chance to do what is right.
Thank you very much, Greg. Mr. Wade, please.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, to be in your company. And, I hope that our program, has shed some light. And, I hope that the people of this nation, take this two-party system for who they are, where they came from, and where we are today, right? And I hope that come in the next municipal election, they reward them, right? Give them their just due, right? And it's time for the independent thinkers in this country to put their name up, because people are tired of this two-party system in this country, the way they have us, right? It's time for a change. They have no goodwill, past and present government, no goodwill, no good intention for the poor laborers and poor people of this nation. Right?
Thank you very
no
much,
good intention.
That was great, sir. Greg, I want to take about a minute, maybe a minute and a half at the most, for my closeout. Could you find Mr. Weird thing for me?
My power pack is dying. Yes, I can do that before
Or
it's
you want to do that before I make my comment,
complete.
so in case you have to go?
Right. Can I
Go ahead,
do
then.
that before?
Go ahead.
Because
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
My people and residents of the Quintong, my name is Roody Wade. I will be contesting the upcoming municipal election again. I humbly ask you, the residents of the Quintong, for your support once more. I am the only change. You have supported the United Democratic Party in the past. You have supported the People's United Party in the past. And you have seen the ills, for change. If you want that change, I am the only change that will be on that ballot. So come March 2024, please give me your support for real change. I am for people and nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Wade. And I'll just close out with a couple of last-minute statements. And I'd like to say that it's unfortunate that our government seems to lack the fortitude of governing on behalf of its people, who empower them and give them the votes at the poll to do better for our country. And despite that, they don't feel that they are indebted to the public or they owe anything to the public. And once they're elected, they just run on and do just about what they want. We have over 24 different issues that has gone on in our country, any of which some of these people should be in jail for. But they wouldn't put themselves in jail. And there's not enough people out here in our Belizean society that would take out a lawsuit against them and take them to court and probably hope to put some financial pressures on them. Because at the end of the day, they're going to use the treasury to backstop the situation anyhow. And we can't fight against our own self. Or a few Belizeans can't fight against the whole treasury of the whole country, which is under their control and purview. I wish we would have people with better patriotism and internal fortitude to be able to do what's right on behalf of our country. Because a lot of these craziness that happened to our people happened because of malignancy of governance. Not because better couldn't be had. The choices that these people make just because they can. But I won't take that any further. I'm pretty much upset for right now. And I don't want to get to a point where I will end up to say something disrespectful to the show or my other colleagues or to the listening public. So I'll just have to contain myself right now and just say thank you for having tuned into tonight's broadcast. Hopefully we have said or did something that will trigger a more appropriate response on the part of our Belizean electorate so that
Chairman,
they
you
can
can't
save
read out
themselves.
anybody who had sent us any comments or anything by
Yes,
chance?
yes, kindly just say something, Mr. Wade.
go ahead. Go ahead. You was about to say something, Greg? Greg, you was about to
I
say
was
something?
saying to Mr. Wade, kindly just mention them, thanking them.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see. That's why I asked Leonard.
Okay, okay. I was going. That's why I was trying to pull up right now. If you give me a second, I was going to pull it up and then, because I was responding to some of them just now. You know? Just give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have Mr. Gregory Morrison, who was saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. And then he went on to post another comment. He said he's watching on the drive home. Apparently, he's in the LA traffic again as usual, which is very tough. So I replied to him and said, safe travels, my dear esteemed brother, my dear brother. Then Ms. Rubina Forte also said, good night, all. I haven't responded to her yet. I'm going to respond when I come out, when the show is finished, because I didn't have enough time to. Ms. Maze Lopez, your sister, Mr. Wade, and our dear
Yes.
former prayer warrior colleague.
Yes.
She said,
Yes, I will have to leave my poor
good night,
practice
everyone.
going.
Blessings.
Good night to one
Yes,
and
sir.
all.
Good night. Greg, do you want to play a small
Yes.
music? You want to play a little small music, and then we just.
Sonia Allen says, good evening. And Sonia Allen says, such an interesting show. The best explanation of the Mayan issue. Much thanks.
I will
Sonia
respond to
Allen.
her in a
Eric
little
Christine
while
is watching.
after the show is over and I get a chance
Thanks.
to respond.
Thank you for your contribution.
Thanks, everybody. And this was a nice show. And I think we went far over our limits, but it was deservingly so. And I don't think we have actually closed out this subject. So we have some guests that should have come in tonight, one of them at least, and then another one for next Monday, hopefully. And I think this issue is becoming bigger and bigger, and we need to keep engaged with it because at the end of the day, it's about a lot of people's lives and livelihood. And it's going to create major impact on our society. So somehow or another, I think we need to find necessary time and try to continue educating our people or get our people motivated enough to be able to pay attention to what's going on and try to help themselves. We can't help them other than just motivating them. Thank you very much, Belizeans at home and abroad, for tuning into tonight's show, Belizeans Affairs Show number 89 for Friday, 12th of January, 2024. God bless. Good night.
Ancestors them get glory after war and fight.